of our trade mission to Indonesia. We've stopped over here for 3 nights. We're acclimatizing, and our first visit, our first meeting of the whole trip is right now in this space behind us, the cocoon space. And we're here to meet with the Singapore Fashion Council.
This year, WCTD 2023 is looking at East-West, North-South perceptions around circularity, what it means regionally, nationally, and seeing what we can learn and what we can share to build bridges for the future.
From my perspective, we're here to listen and to learn and to understand how the topic of circularity is gaining ground in Singapore and in Indonesia more broadly, and how World Circular Textiles Day can be a platform for all the great work that's already happening, and also kind of a driver for more change.
For me, it's being able to see sort of like a helicopter view of the systems.
So later on today, we are going to the Nanyang Technological University, and we're going to see the Sustex recycling technology that they've been working on.
The university itself, original founding was in 1950, but the NTU that we see today started at 82, so it's just 41 years. But this school, the Materials Science and Engineering, is 31 years old. Yeah, and incredibly, we have the school has achieved #1 ranking in materials science globally in the last 3 years. You know.
Cindy, what do you think of Singapore?
It's hot.
Well, the first meeting was at the Singapore Fashion Council. We met with a team of 3 there, and we met with some representatives, the CEO, and they showed us their new roadmap, their report. They've actually rebranded in the last year, and they've got a big focus now on sustainability, and they're kind of embedding circularity in sustainability. They've got these pillars. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of promise, and it's really sort of quite early stages, but really promising. And I love their focus on young people, schools, the next generation.
What really struck me from our meeting with the Sustex team was the fact that Singapore has the exact same volume of post-consumer textile waste as the whole Ireland, island of Ireland does. And they have incredibly low recycling rates, 4%. And that was really striking for me as an Irish woman. But also it made me understand, you know, the real impetus that there is here to find a solution. And the solution has to be something which has what they call urban fit, so that works for a city like Singapore.
My first impressions are I'm quite overwhelmed. I knew I would be, because I knew sort of coming out of academia and then seeing the scale of industry would have a real impact. But yeah, I mean, we were driving through for miles along roads with trees everywhere, and everything is sort of part of this big ecosystem here. And what we've been learning here at the Technology Centre is about how they're really trying to improve all the tiny sort of elements of the whole symbiotic system. Whether that's water, whether that's biodiversity, whether that's the land management and the deforestation and the replanting of trees to counteract the use, the water treatment to put water that's better, more pure back into the river than they're extracting, how they're trying to use less water with the processes. Now, you know, I've been in the industry long enough to know that nothing's perfect, and there's always a lot more improvement that can be made. And the ideal point of view is that we have, you know, carbon positive or earth positive materials. You know, so whenever we talk about materials and climate change and circularity and what's good and what's bad, we've got to look behind the scenes. We've got to really look at the whole system.
So Cartex is a vertically integrated textile company. We started in 1979, and we spin our own cottons and polyester, and we weave and knit our own fabrics, dyeing, finishing into our final products of garments and socks and fabrics. So our biggest market is locally Indonesia as well as to Europe. So we've started to reduce our carbon emissions in 2020, and at the moment we have 14.7% of our energy is from solar panels. We've also started to reduce our coal consumption. Currently we have reduced our coal by 30%. We've replaced coal with biomass such as palm shells, coconut shells and wood chips. Our target is to reduce most of our coal by 2025. The target is 100%. And how we can achieve that is by replacing our coal boilers with electric boilers, and that electricity will be sourced from the solar panels, so that we have zero loop carbon emissions going forward. In 2019, we had a discussion with H&M Foundation as well as Hong Kong Reader, a research company in Hong Kong. We started to discuss the opportunities of textile to textile recycling. Bottle to textile is already a mature technology, whereas textile to textile is still a new innovation in this process. So this is the green machine. Two main steps in the green machine. First step is the blend separation, where we separate the cotton from the polyester. And the green machine's main objective is to collect the polyester to put it back into the supply chain. And the second process is the decolorization of the polyester. We'll remove the colors, dye stuff from the polyester. I think in Indonesia, the supply chain is not mature enough. Globally, I think consumer awareness needs to be worked on. And of course, cost is also an issue that comes into play. As we achieve further economies of scale, I believe that costs will go down to a certain extent. There is still a lot of opportunities to recycle fabric. I think a lot of it is still going, unfortunately, to landfills. I hope in the future, each city will have a green machine in their own city, where all of the fabric can be recycled, can be used.
So in the last few days we've been travelling across Indonesia and seeing a whole range of different recycling technologies, primarily chemical recycling technologies of different natures. So in the first instance we saw, actually in Singapore, we saw the SUSTEX technology, which is really distinct in that they're trying to build a technology that has an urban fit, that can work in a highly condensed, compact city and be low effluent, low water, etc., so as to kind of meet the criteria that the government have set there. So a very interesting brief. Then we saw the APR patented technology that's in development, and there, of course, for them it's crucial that it works on the industrial scale that they operate in, and that all of the component parts, the raw materials, are things that can be sourced from within their existing operations and then feed into their existing large-scale viscose production. And then finally, we've just seen the green machine. I think what it really speaks to is the fact that we need a whole variety of solutions. This is not going to be a silver bullet, you know, one technology solves all the industry's ails. We're at the point in our transition where we're trying to kind of test and compare these different alternatives, and each of them has their own distinct feedstock specifications, their own distinct use cases, so they do have a kind of a potential in different contexts. So it's trying to understand which is the highest potential in these different contexts, and how do we, I suppose, build something that's fit for purpose on a regional or a national scale. So that's been fascinating to see. And also the level of collaboration between all of these technologies, that it doesn't feel like a competitive space, even though it's a highly innovative space.
We mainly process polyester yarn as well as nonwoven for bedding, automotive, as well as insulation. We source our raw materials from post-industrial textile factories as well as post-consumer goods that are donated to us through our affiliated companies. We process around 20 tons each day. Circularity to me and to us as a company means it's a way for us to help manage the waste that is building up in this world. I feel like in Indonesia, they're starting to become more aware of it, but I think there's a key perception that needs to be changed, which is that people look at our product and think, oh, it's waste, must be cheaper than other alternatives, but the amount of work that goes into this, as well as the cost, is actually, you know, it's not cheaper.
Where are we going?
We are leaving Bandung and going to Jakarta for our final day.
Founders committed to promote sustainability throughout the value chain of Indonesian textile, garment.
We are ready actually to promote, to come to the young millennials, to the consumers about the world has been shifted, has been changing. It's not only about buying, it's not only about producing, it's not only about consuming, but you should contribute also on how to minimize the impact to the world, to the environment.
And it's very fast in Indonesia. A lot of coming capital to Indonesia, including grant, including loan, including investment.
For us, textile is so important for this 270 million population. It's a very clear difference if you look in Europe and many other big markets. They are talking already about responsible materials, sustainable materials, renewable materials, right? But then most of our products here focus also into the domestic market. It should be a collaborative action and then communications. Brands and international agents or institutions should talk to us first also, at least communicate with us here in Indonesia about what is going to be changed, where Indonesia is all about, and what can Indonesia contribute in those conversations.
We've just had the most amazing week. We had one visit after another to different plants, facilities, to touch, to look hands and look with our eyes, touch things for both chemical and hydrothermal and mechanical recycling and second-hand. Just some of the richest conversations I think I've ever had in my career, to be honest, because it's great being a design academic. It's great working with ideas and young people, but my God, when you go in through those doors and you look at what scale production in Southeast Asia is actually like, you really start to connect the dots.
We have had a whirlwind week. We've only skimmed the surface, but we got a very good snapshot and taste of the culture, the commerce, the tensions, the challenges and the opportunities.
I think the biggest learning for me, something which I knew conceptually, but then it was confirmed this week, was that even though circularity is a holistic solution to the biggest challenges of our time, the solution looks different depending on where you are. The specifics of how to implement it on a regional or a national level really needs to be bespoke and tailored to the context. And I suppose it's just really emphasised again the need for us within our day-to-day work in Europe to build our plans in consideration of the global supply chain and the kind of rebound effects, positive and negative, that things like EU regulation have. Something that we've been advocating for, but this just gives me more fire in my belly to really put that side of the conversation forward than just in circular transition?
Yeah, today I think what's promising is that there's a real recognition that Indonesia wants to take a leadership position.
Kind of call for collaboration, multi-stakeholder collaboration, not only to do with, kind of industry, whether small or large, but also bringing government into the conversation. And I think actually there's a real alignment here in Indonesia where the conversation is really quite far along. All the puzzle pieces are there. Hopefully it's just about bringing people together in the right room to push forward a roadmap in the next year. I think it's very doable.